Good evening everyone. If you don't know, you should know. My name is Rameez and I am a filmmaker and a film critic. And today's film is Demolition.
Do you think it's too late to put it all back together?
Demolition is a film directed by Jean-Marc Vallée, one of the best working directors in Hollywood today. That kinda rhymes. He directed Dallas Buyers Club and Wild. Those two films are some of the most powerful and some of my favorite films of all time. Those films study the human condition, so does Demolition. Hey, that rhymes too! It tells the story of a man named Davis, an investment banker played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and him coping and coming to terms with the loss of his wife. That's it. I must preface this review by saying I really enjoyed this film, but it's really hard for me to recommend this film. Because this isn't necessarily a film, it's life. We are watching someone go through moments and stages of his life. And it sorta kinda plays out like a documentary. Our main character of Davis doesn't really have a goal in this film. He does have an arc, but he doesn't have a goal. So don't expect to connect with Davis's character. I'm a big fan of Jean-Marc Vallée for a number of reasons, but one of those reasons is because he is an editor's director. My focus in filmmaking is editing. I love to edit films. I believe, like the first two films, Dallas Buyers Club and Wild, Jean-Marc Vallée, the director, himself edits this. It's well known that he edits films under an alias, like Steven Soderbergh. And you can kind of see his inspiration. His films have a Soderberghian type of edit around them. All three of his films have this motif that they introduce shots as reference points to which we get context to later, and vice versa. Sometimes we get context first and reference later. This is Jean-Marc Vallée's craziest edit, and it is reminiscent of the Soderbergh film called The Limey, which feels like it was cut on cocaine. This film is also classified as a comedy. Now, I don't know how true that is. The film literally starts off with Davis's wife dying. Yeah, very funny. There are sparks of comedy later on when Davis becomes more and more detached with his surroundings and people. He plays off of his supporting cast incredibly, by the way. A supporting cast of Naomi Watts and Chris Cooper. Davis meets the character of Naomi Watts like out of the blue. Again, like real life. You meet people sometimes out of nowhere, and they end up being so important in your lives. Like all of Jean-Marc Vallée's previous films, all of his characters are extremely broken and somewhat twisted. Now, why does a goalless character in Demolition not work? I mean, think about it. In Dallas Buyers Club and Wild, both Matthew McConaughey's Ron Woodroof and Cheryl Strayed kinda had no goal. I mean, Ron Woodroof's goal was to survive, but that's a really broad goal. And in Wild, it's the same thing. The character lacks a goal and gains context as the film progresses. Now, this is why it doesn't work in Demolition, because Dallas Buyers Club and Wild are stories about journeys rather than characters. But the thing is, those journeys are incredible. One of them's about a guy who got AIDS and was only given 30 days to live, and he lived on for 10 years. And the other one is about a woman purposefully putting herself in danger, hiking on the Appalachian Trail alone to give her life some meaning. It's very powerful. Now compare that to a man's wife dying. Not so powerful. And it doesn't really help that Davis's character doesn't love his wife in the film either. The way the story is directed and told and edited is not necessarily bad, it's just the script, the source material, and the setting is rather weak and you don't care for it as much. And his motivations and actions all stem from a saying that his father-in-law tells him. If you want to fix something, you gotta take it all apart piece by piece and then find out where everything went wrong. That is what Jake Gyllenhaal's Davis is trying to do with his life. It's a lot of fun to see, but weak setup and weak motivation. Jake Gyllenhaal is fantastic as always, and it's nice to see him play a sort of subdued and quiet character with sparks of craziness. It was the opposite in Nightcrawler. By the way, if you haven't seen Nightcrawler, what rock are you living under? But he's great in the film, so is the supporting cast of Chris Cooper and Naomi Watts. If you're fans of those actors, you will not be disappointed in this film. But if you aren't fans of those characters, and if you haven't reached a certain level of maturity, if you will, I doubt that you will enjoy this film. So personally, I really enjoyed this film, but I don't think everyone else will. As depressing as it was, I am giving this film a final score of 3.5 out of 5. Thank you so much for watching this video, people. I apologize for being away for a while. I'm working on a big video, but you will see that soon. Until next time, remember to love yourselves.